Sometimes you hear the stories of founders that wake up at 4 a.m. and working crazy hours, American founder stars. If you dig a bit deeper into their life, I think it's a lot about routine. I have 3 kids. There's a big challenge of handling both and having the support at home, but I'm also not investing 100-hour weeks. I think there's one big challenge in general, I think political question or almost. One issue of tech is that we know Google, we all use it. And we're used that they're working so perfectly that smaller companies, I think, have a big challenge because they don't have the resources to make it work that smoothly. And it starts with apps. And I mean, we feel it with customers and they're asking, why is not that there and that there? And we're like, okay, we're a very small team. On a global scale, if we look at AI now, I think it's very difficult for founders and even if they're VC backed to build something that is competitive on the market because it's so scalable that regional players will have like more difficulties than before. And that also moves like income and wealth to a very high concentration. I mean, we see today the Nasdaq is mainly driven by 3 companies in the US and the rest is like not relevant anymore because they're so big. I'm originally from Vienna. I grew up here. And I moved to the north of Italy for studying my bachelor, and I was always someone who was working. In school, I worked in restaurants. When I studied, I always worked on the side because for me it was interesting to earn money from the beginning on, and that's why after the bachelor I also started my career in Switzerland. For 2 years, I worked in a brand consulting company. And then I did my master also in Switzerland. And then I thought, okay, I need something that's more attached to earning money. And I moved to sales. So I actually started my professional career in sales in Switzerland, in a construction company, like not construction company, but Hilti, a global brand for construction tools. And they are like really learned sales from scratch because I'm convinced that as a company, it's crucial to have the right money inflow. That's oxygen for business. So I wanted to learn that. And then because of family, after 10 years abroad, I moved with my wife and our first kid back to Vienna. And that was, I think, 2 months before Corona. And during the first lockdown, I had this phase of thinking, hey, do I want to do something else? And I always wanted to be independent. I never really liked corporate worlds. And it was only that the right idea was missing. I always had some ideas popping up, and then you share them with your network, and sooner or later you find some big obstacles and you throw it away. And the trigger for founding SCHRANKERL was really at home discussing with my wife, and she said, hey, you always complain about food, and why don't you look into that topic? And then it was like there was no looking back from that moment. I wrote HR leaders on LinkedIn. I got feedback. I got so much positive feedback about that there's a problem that there was never thinking about, is that the right decision? I quit my job. I found a co-founder, Sarah Mari, from Italy, by the way. So also a food passionate person. And that's also what I'm telling other people who are saying or asking, hey, how do you find the right idea? When do you do that step? And I always tell them, if it's the right idea, it's not a rational decision. It's a very emotional decision. And when you have the right idea, you just do that step, and it feels like it's automatic, intuitive.
It comes from the gut.
Yeah.
that's the reality. It's not that much thought. But I mean, you moved from paid to earn your money, right? That's a different, this very much different environment. So you had to have a very strong motivation for doing this. Because I have many friends of mine, very smart guys, but they always wanted, but they've been always considered, okay, I need to live in what is a very comfort zone for me. I make a lot of money. They pay me a lot of money every month. So to move to something that totally unknown, starting from scratch, and maybe I can go even bankrupt, which is can happen. So what was the very much motivation behind you to take this huge? Because as I said to a fund a few days ago, one thing is when you take the risk at 25 and not family nothing. And one thing when you take the risk at not 25 anymore with a family and kids. It's totally different story. So what would you find the strength and motivation to do this?
So I mean, my personal motivation is I think I wanted to prove that I can do it, that I can, with other people together, but that I can build a company that is successful, and that I know how to do the right decisions. So I think in my personal intrinsic motivation is I want to prove it, and I personally really had that problem, that issue of having something good to eat at work. So the idea itself was also for me also very motivating. I was not looking for something for a business idea where I know I can do, I don't know, a lot of money. I think it always also has to be something that you are super much motivated by the idea itself, because there's so many times during the founder life where you have extreme situations, a lot of pressure, frustration, not enough sleep. And if then you don't believe that your product is actually helping people, no matter what product it is, then it's difficult. So I think it's like, for me, it was the personal motivation to prove that I can do it, and the issue of having something good to eat at work. Because I was at my previous employer, I had nothing. I had frozen food, and I was really frustrated by that. To the question, financial background, like how is it to jump into that cold water? You need to learn swimming very fast. Yeah, I had family in the back. Um, I think by support by my wife, so she's also self-employed. In Austria, we have the advantage that you can basically have unemployment pay for up to a year as a founder. That
Okay.
helps, but you need to be quick. But that's also something that I discussed with Sarah, my co-founder. I told her, look, we take a year. If we don't have a lot of customers and a financing round where we can pay us also the minimum that we need to like cover our fixed
Yeah.
costs, then we go back to employment. Yeah, so we also had this deadline for us. I don't believe that it's super healthy as a founder to put everything into the company for 10 years, not taking out salary, living on the cent, because you need also a free back at home. You know, I, I think that's also something that we communicate also to the investors. I don't want to go home ironing my shirts and, I don't know, cleaning the home. I want to invest the time in
Yeah.
my company. So you as an investor, you have an interest. I have at least a salary where I can do that. Yeah. So financially, yeah. Um,
I mean, I can. I done EquityMatch where this podcast belongs. It's my sixth one, but I remember my first company. The approach was, this is what I'm saving. I'm going to put everything in, and I really was living with euros. And my friend told me, what are you doing, Max? This madness. You pay salary to your employees. You don't pay anything to you. I mean, you don't come in for dinner because this was my approach at the very beginning. It was not even 30. But you're right. If you don't pay yourself, unless you have a lot of saving on the side, you're not committing with the company, even though even that probably is wrong. If you don't feel good, how can you work? That's my point of view. It's very complicated. You don't have the pressure of the family if you have a family. Your wife is self-employed. I remember a friend of mine The wife every every evening was saying to him, "Are you sure this is going to work? Because we can't even have food here." Say, "No, no worries." He became pretty successful, this guy, but the period in between has been terrible. So maybe it's too much. You're right, but can you describe the feeling when you started? Do you have any memories about how was the feeling? Super excited, maybe a lot of concern.
I was very excited, and also my like personal network, they were also very excited. So it was, and that's a bit unusual in Austria because Austrian culture is more like, wow, is this really a good idea? And why should you do that? And so I don't know, my personal network, they were big fans of the idea, and I don't know, there was only support. I know that for Sarah, Mari, my co-founder, it was a bit different because maybe also the professional background, because she was working for McKinsey, so maybe the step was a bit larger for her. But no, it was excitement for me in my family. We also got soon a lot of traction from clients, from customers. It was all going very fast. Before we had our first client, we were on TV in Vienna. Um, it was luck, it was
Oh,
personal network. They actually called us if we want to be on the morning TV. And I'm like, we're not ready for that. Let me call you back. Um, our first fridge arrived the day before we were on TV. So yeah, it all moved super fast. And I think that's also a reason why there was not a lot of hesitating. Yeah.
but which one was the most difficult one when you start? Because you must handle everything, even the cleaning, if you have an office. Where do you find the most difficult part, where you struggle the most at the very beginning?
Um, in the very beginning, to be honest, there was no moment where we had like huge struggles or big obstacles. It was more like getting the financing was probably the biggest challenges because we did fundraising during the worst times in the last 10 years. So that was definitely the toughest time, the most pressure for me and Sarah. Um, Building the business itself was not so much difficulty, but I don't know why. um, I think it's also like the legal part of founding a company in Austria is very easy um, and straightforward, and we we also try to move fast. So we always do the step, and then we see if it's right or wrong, and then we adapt. Um, I think that's a reason maybe why we move fast, why we got very far bootstrapped. Um, and we're that diverse founder team. I think that also helps to find the right decision, maybe. Um,
Me, I believe finding the right market fit helps a lot. If you really can fit yourself, find your spot into the market, it helps. You don't need to pivot so many times, changing too much
yeah, and I think
around. You go pretty
that's maybe
forward.
also an advantage that we had because um, first of all, I only started because we felt the demand from the market that there was a gap that then didn't they needed a solution. So that was never a question if we have the basic product market fit, like is there people paying for what we developed? That was very soon clear. And then of course there's the questions, okay, is there how large is the potential actually really? Are the customers staying? Is the product market fit so good that they're actually staying and not only buying the first time? Um, but I think that's I don't know with other business ideas where you have to find the product market fit. I think the first phase is maybe a bit more difficult, yeah,
It's very expensive.
and expensive.
If you don't find immediately, it's very expensive moving around. Very, very expensive. What about be a founder. How did it impact your life? Good or bad?
Very good. I always tell Sarah we have a very very big problem if that doesn't work because it's difficult for us to go back to an employment, and I think that's also something that other founders are maybe struggling with. doing their own decisions, having the freedom to decide how to structure how you want to work is an amazing benefit that we are enjoying, and we also want to build a company that the people working at also have this freedom of deciding where to work from, when to work, being very educated about how to invest the time. That's also, I mean, it's sometimes a challenge, but yeah, for me, it was definitely a positive decision. Yeah.
That's the beauty to be an entrepreneur, right? You make your decision. You own your time. But going to time, although you own your time, you must have some kind of discipline because you can't wake up 10 o'clock in the morning. That is not the right way to go, right? And if you have employees, you must lead by examples. So do you have any kind of routine to keep in balance?
So I mean, I have three kids between 4 and 1. So
Wow.
there's a big challenge of handling both and having the support at home. But I'm also not investing 100-hour weeks. Sometimes you hear the stories of founders that wake up at 4 in the morning and working crazy hours. Also from, I don't know, Jeff Bezos and the American founder stars. If you dig a bit deeper into their life, I think it's a lot about routine, as you mentioned. So I
Yeah.
use sports to get energy. And if I have 2-3 months where I don't do sports at least 2 times a week, I feel that I'm not um, at the maximum of my capacity. I really get
Yeah.
angry and frustrated. It's weird. So I think exercising is important, um, and having the balance. If I'm not working, if I'm at home and not working, then I really don't work. And it's not like having always the phone and emails open. Of course, if someone calls me, I'm reachable. But if I'm at home with the family, I try to enjoy that time because they're young. I
Yeah.
want to have that. It's also a reason why I found my own company, that I have this freedom of being at home for dinner and then maybe working afterwards. Um, the routine at work, I like to come to the office because then I have the distance uh, to home. Um, yeah.
I mean, during this time, as soon as you started, have you ever thought I'm not qualified enough? So, do you have any doubts during the way?
Oh, yeah. I think it's a lie if someone is not saying that, that there's not self-doubt. So I don't know. In the face of it's always when something is not working out. So when we were fundraising and it was getting really close to not closing the round, you of course you question: do we have the right product for the market? Is it really attractive for investors? Are we good at fundraising? I know I'm good, but there's better people. There's always better people. But you only know that when the round is closed. Until it's closed, you have self-doubt. The same comes to your personal development, the requirements that you have as a founder. You need to either grow personally very fast as well, or get people to the team who can do it better. That concerns leadership topics, because basically you're moving from hands-on in the company doing it yourself to now we have 43 people, if we include the logistics, in 3 years. It's I think that's a pace that you never have in a or usually not have in a corporate, because there you have much more time for getting into the roles and learning it. And as a founder, you need to learn very fast, and that doesn't work out always. So we had also a time where people in our team were very much complaining about my leadership skills. Yeah. And
I mean, you learn. The beauty of be a founder is the learning curve. It's very fast, and you need to adapt yourself to such a huge, fast moving. But what do you enjoy the most in what you do every day, not in your bright life? When you go to the office and you had so many tasks, where do you find it? Yes, sales guy. As I started as a sales guy and I still love it. As DiCaprio says in Wolf of Wall Street, I mean, you must sell. That's it. There is nothing to talk. Business selling. Where do you feel the most
So, I mean,
in all this task?
what I enjoy is to have multiple tasks because I'm not good at doing one task to perfection. So I would not be a good lawyer or a good accountant who is focusing on the ultimate detail and perfection. So for me, it's actually the having multiple tasks is something that I enjoy because there's always coming new challenges. But the thing that I like most is actually being in sales. So talking with customers, building up the network, seeing our own salespeople signing their own contracts. The first contract is always a highlight for me because I know how it feels to sign your own contract, your first contract as a salesperson in a new company. I know what that creates a lot of emotions, and I love that if people are successful there and if I can help them on the way there. So I like the sales part actually the most. Yeah.
I mean, I will give you, I love sales. I enjoy sales so much. I'm doing less sales now because EquityMatch is a different story. It's a B2C, but I enjoy so much sales and the B2B very much so probably. But anyway, each of us, we are different, we have different skills. I give you two words, resilience and motivation, because I do believe founders must master these two topics. How do you find them? How do you cope with them?
So I mean, resilience is something that's super important as a founder because you get so many challenges that you have to master, and there's not a week where there's not somewhere a fire burning where you need to jump into it and either help the team or take it on yourself. And I think that a lot of resilience comes from if you have this balance, if you have this routine, and if you know where to get energy from when you need energy to or reload energy, and a good founder team. So I mean, you need someone to talk about things, to find the right decisions. I think that helps a lot of resilience. Yeah, so single founders who really are successful, chapeau. It's I think the one challenge more, and motivation. I'm a very positive thinker. Yeah, so I'm rarely thinking about things that are not working out. If I'm in this situation, it's usually bad stress. So if I'm getting into bad thinking or like not seeing the positive side, it's always connected to a negative stress, and I feel that or I detect that as well if I'm not sleeping well. If I don't sleep well, not because of the kids, but because of my mind that is turning. I know that there's some things that I didn't close, and then motivation can drop, and then I need to get out of the circle, and that I usually talking at home with my wife about it, doing a bit more sports, and actually doing a list of things that are concerning, and my brain helps to get out of the circle. Yeah.
And what about failure? What's your relationship with failure?
So yeah, before that, maybe to the topic of motivation, resilience, and maybe like this balance. What I now want to do as well is like have structured time for myself also in my personal life, like with friends. It's difficult because I have the company, I have the family, I have my life partner, my wife, but it's also important to like once a month go for drinks with friends. That's something that I want to do more. like not more often, but actually do it, because then it gives, at least for me as a very social person, it gives myself also energy, and sometimes it's good to talk to other people, and then they hear, hey, wow. And that was like for the financing round, our lawyer and also advisor, and we talked to him sometimes also over beer. He said, Stephan, you closed a round in a time when a lot of companies don't successfully closed it. A lot of startups closed, went bankruptcy, and you managed it. You can be proud of yourself. So sometimes you need other people telling you that you did a good job,
Yeah.
because there is like no one other in the company doing it, right? So that's also sometimes very good, and like also maybe to the community that are maybe listening to this podcast afterwards. Um, Founders are usually under a lot of pressure, and it's for them, even if they don't acknowledge it, if you give them a compliment, I think it's beneficial, very beneficial. A failure,
Yeah.
yes, actually all the times. I think as a founder, you're pushed and driven by um, um, making it a success, and on the opposite is always like, is this going to be the failure? And I think it's like small failures probably that I ignore a bit more, because I think it's part of the game.
Is there. My failure is there, but for example, I really don't care. As long as you don't fail too big. The only problem is too strong can very much damage you. But
Yeah,
if you can
and there's like,
reborn again,
I
it's fine.
I was very much stressed about losing customers.
Mm.
I think that's natural in a B2B business, in a B2B subscription business, but it was almost unhealthy until Sarah said, um, it's better to look ahead and not thinking too much about this customer and stress yourself about it. We have to learn from each customer that we lose, and it shouldn't be like a structural problem, but yeah, losing a customer is a failure, a small one. Um, if it's not too many, then we shouldn't put too much energy into that. Yeah, I mean, the biggest part of, or fear of failure, I think it's always like liquidity, right? I think it's also
It
the part that
does.
puts a lot of, or most pressure on founders. Um, if you're not profitable, um, I'm really curious, really curious how life changes as soon as we are profitable, if it actually changes or not, because there's some other topics coming, and you're looking into how profitable are we, and are we still, I don't know. But I'm really curious about this um, time when we actually don't think about liquidity in that way, but in a different view. You probably have the experience. Maybe you can share it, but
It's a different story. Yeah. When you start, this is how your cash flow does, and you only rely on the money of others, right? And after you start generating revenue, break even, and actually start generating profit, it's a different story. But I come for a very tough experience in my life. When I was my first startup, I was very bad in managing cash. Although I spent all my life in finance, all my life. But at the very beginning, I never understood very much how to manage the cash flow. It, or maybe because all my business were on performance. If you have a SaaS business, it's a different story. Managing the cash flow in a SaaS, we have a monthly recurrent revenue. It's a totally different, or annual, than having performance-based business, where you never know what's going to happen next month. So it then was for me a huge problem, which I learned, but a very high price. But the feeling is different. When you start generating money yourself, you do not rely on investors anymore. That's a huge release. I mean, you feel another person, totally another person. Actually, you can tell back, guys, maybe this year I will give you some money back in dividends. That's a totally different story. And you feel running a company. not running a startup anymore. What do you mean? For a startup going to profitability, not generating revenue, but actually be profit, cover the costs, and generating some extra cash. It's not that simple. It's pretty much having consistent cash. This is why I understand your concern when it comes to losing clients. B2B is not like B2C. It takes long to get a client on. It does take overnight. It's not a click. So when you lose, man, you lose money, you lost a lot of time. And it's the B2B, it's, in my opinion, on the long run, it's easier. At the very beginning, it takes longer to having clients. The churn rate in B2B is crucial because in B2C, the churn rate, you can recover. You can close the gap in somehow. B2C takes longer. So, but yeah, I mean, the feeling of generating revenue is beautiful. The feeling of, for an entrepreneur, of generating profit, it's unbelievable. You feel very much you succeed. Very much. Yeah. It takes a work. It takes a work.
Yeah, that's like our current like motivation driver is really I mean, we need one more financing round, but to make it profitable very soon. Like next year, it should be there.
Yeah, it takes a while, but of course, absolutely, you can be there, and the feeling will be huge for sure. I can assure you.
I will think back to that podcast and give you a call. I will give you a call the first month where we have a positive P&L. Yeah.
We can have another podcast. What about your private life? You have kids, wife, friends. How do you have to spend time? Your spare time?
Yeah, I have 3 kids, my wife, and I mean, I try to be at home for dinner because that's like the moment where I can see my kids and enjoy them. And on the weekends, I usually also don't work, but I spend the time with my family. Depending on the year, going sledging in Vienna or other things. If I do sports, I do it in the morning, like 6:30 to 7:30, 2 times a week. Helps me. I try to always do it after work, but that's the energy level is not high enough to motivate myself to go to sports. I used to do triathlon before family because it's just too time consuming to train. And in winter, I love skiing. Actually, ski touring or hiking up the mountains and going off piste. That's a big passion. And otherwise, I'm like also in sports. I love sports. I do it all the time, and I did played a lot of tennis when I was young. I played basketball, ice hockey, all sports that you can think of. I tried them, and I'm usually very talented. And I'm really looking forward to the day where I can go like really skiing with my kids. Yeah.
It will come soon. I mean, the first is 4.
Is 4, so
right,
yeah, I went the first 2 times. But it's like also I don't know, playing football, soccer with the kids. That's a time that I'm looking forward to as well.
What's your take on the tech ecosystem? I mean, you are a pure tech entrepreneur. You start your startup, you're being fundraising, not only bootstrapping. So you got everything inside what is being funded, being venture capital. What's your take? I mean, do you think in tech as a whole, funders are doing enough, as well as venture capitalists, angels, investors, or venture capitalists as a fund, or a lot of talks, not too much delivered? There are huge talks in venture capital. We like to talk big. That's the reality. Okay? And but actually, what do you think is in substance? Are we delivering enough to change this world in a good place?
I mean, I think there's like one big challenge in general. I think that's more a very like political question almost. I think that one issue of tech is that I mean, we know Google, we all use it, and we're used that they're working so perfectly that smaller companies, I think, have a big challenge because they don't have the resources to make it work that smoothly. And it starts with apps, and I mean, we feel it with customers, and they're asking why is not that there, and we're like, okay, we're a very small team. Um, and I think on a global scale, if we look at AI now, I think it's very difficult for founders and even if they're like VC backed to build something that is competitive on the market because it's so scalable that regional players will have like more difficulties than before, and that also moves like income and wealth to a very high concentration. And I think that could can be a societal issue. Yeah. Um, we also see, I mean, we see today the Nasdaq is mainly driven by three companies in the US, and the rest is like not relevant anymore because they're so big. What was it? Microsoft is
Yeah.
larger than the German DAX. I mean, it's.
Oh, yeah, it's almost 1.3, 1.4 trillion.
So I mean,
Yeah, yes, it's almost the economy of Italy.
and the and then there's always the question of like, is there actually the chance to distribute income, success? Um, um,
That's true. That's a huge concern that must be almost uh, politicians must talk and act about. Asking to politicians is too much. If you had the power to change things in this world without any, I mean, I'm not talking about tech, I'm not talking about business, whatever comes to your mind, what would you like to change? You can change it.
always like thinking about, but I don't have an answer to that. Is like, why do people need to fight for resource? Like this global topic always about the crisis and not thinking about what's the best for maybe me, but also on a global case. This why do we still have to like kill each other for reasons that are just not. I don't understand it. I don't have an answer for that as well. I think a lot of people are asking that. Um, but for me, it's still unbelievable that we still need this crisis. And people who want to have this power. And I know that, I mean, the answer is probably because democracy is not a lot of power. People can vote you off and you're not important anymore. Some people don't like that.
Yeah.
Um, um, and on a climate topic, I'm I'm usually a very optimistic thinker, and I think we have to stay optimistic. And it doesn't help us to ignore it, even if we believe that humanity will not challenge it or survive that crisis. Um, but I think that the climate crisis is something that is for the how we work as a humanity, being actually all very egoistic, will will be difficult to change, to have a collective understanding um, that we all need to do something about it, and not say
Yeah.
the other one is not changing the way how they live as well. Why should I change it? Um, Two big challenges that I don't have an answer or a solution. I wish I had. I think there's a lot of other people who wish they had a solution. Um, I try to do a positive impact here in Austria on feeding people a bit more healthy and helping them to reduce meat consumption. Um, Today we have one client, and they said that Veganuary we only want vegetarian food in Schankel for 1 month to show people and try push them a little bit into that direction. Um, I think we can all have our impact, but I also try not to think too global on those topics because it, I cannot change anything about it. I can only change something in my circle of control, and there I'm trying. And that's much more fulfilling.
I mean, we all must do our part, right? And if we all do something, it's going to be big. That's the point. But we had to. Do you like reading books?
Yes. I mean, I'm not a big reader, but I started a little bit reading a little bit more. Um,
Do you have any favorite one?
like, yes, one that I read recently is about the CEO of uh, Bob Iger of Disney, the whole story of Disney, how he ran it. I think now he's back in the seat again, because he's writing about it that it's all about people. I mean, it is an entertainment business, but it's very interesting to see how he managed to convince Steve Jobs to sell his baby Pixar. What I didn't know that it was actually a Steve Jobs company, and how he sees and how important for him the people are, and to build up the connection to people, to actually move them and change how they decide. So I think it's Hell of a Ride is the name of the book. I'm not sure. I would have to recall it. About the CEO of Disney. Very inspiring.
What's the best lesson that life gave to you?
It's more like maybe how I live, the way I do decisions. It's more, I personally think, and I also tell that other people, if you're not happy about something, change it. Don't complain about it. There's so many people complaining about, I don't know, their job, or complaining about other things, and I don't understand it.
Be capable to change is absolutely the most difficult, the most important part of life. You need to change when it's time to change. What's your greatest wish?
The greatest wish for me, I mean, having a family and small kids, is that that we just stop killing each other. If I see the pictures of parents holding their dead child in their arms, it's something that is unbelievable. I cannot imagine how they have to feel, and it's so unnecessary that I wish that wouldn't happen anymore. Yeah, there's a lot of tragedies here. Kids can get sick, and it's something that you cannot really do about it. But conflicts, I think we don't need them anymore. We have other challenges as a humanity to challenge than fighting each other.
I mean, I'm like you. I can't understand. I mean, what's going on? What's been going on for the last 30 years? Unbelievable. Anyway, it's like in going back 100 years ago. Sometimes I believe I believe, I'm completely sure humans are not capable to learn from the past. We are not. There's very
Very
little.
seldom. Very
Yeah, I have no
seldom.
doubts.
So the Second World War was a learning moment in the European Union, at least. That
So
internally they don't
in
start.
you, we learn a lot. In you, I'm very proud. We learn a lot. We've been learning so much. We did something unbelievable. You can go back 70 years ago and thinking that Europe would be as we are today was unthinkable. So we did something great. People don't even understand how big we have been during
But
the
I mean, I have
last
the impression that
50 years.
sometimes it needs a lot of conflict. Sadly, a lot of that people that society wakes up. I mean, it was in the US before they became one country. They had suffered a lot until they came together and said, that's not the solution. We need to find a different solution. The same we had in Europe. Maybe the other regions, they also need to learn that at a high cost, which is very sad. Yeah. But maybe at some
On the
point,
hard way,
Israel and the neighboring countries are thinking about, hey guys, this is not solving anything, but killing people. But yeah, see.
doesn't make any sense. Let's close with a recommendation. If you can recommend anything to all the founders watching this podcast today, what would you like to tell them?
We need much more founders who do that step. So if you just did it, be positive, and get help from other founders. That's my recommendation. If you have struggles, the beauty of being a founder is you can write any founder worldwide, almost, if it's not a huge company already, and they will answer you. If you need help, you can always address other founders because they know how difficult it is, and they love to give advice.
Stephan, thank you so much for coming to the Live Founder. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Massimiliano.
Thank you so much.
Bye.